every individual person can really be their own unique business and niche. And so rather than looking to what is existing already, you can use that for inspiration, but the best thing is to just try to follow your curiosity.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Coffee with Tea. I'm your host, Tanya Tyler, and I'm excited because we're going to be talking to Mr. William Renner, or Mr. Moon, about the joys of meditation. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it off over to Mr. William. Welcome, sir. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hello, Tanya. I'm super excited to be here.
It's a great way to connect with you. We've had a great conversation. So I was invited on to Mr. Williams, Mr. Renner. I always go people by their first name. So please forgive me.
It's good.
It's a military thing. So Mr. Williams, a podcast, and we're going to talk more about that podcast. It's actually called the Meditation Daily podcast, and you can talk more about the benefits of meditation, but I'm not going to share most of that. I'm going to turn on over to Mr. William. Please tell a little bit about who you are, sir, and how have you been dealing with this reopening after this pandemic?
Sure. So my name is William, and I decided to start a kids show actually before the pandemic. This is kind of a bit of a tangent maybe to start, but I discovered meditation shortly before the pandemic happened, and I decided to devote my life to meditation and helping people learn about it. And then I figured, what better way than teaching kids about meditation, and then the kids can teach their parents. So this was kind of my sneaky way of trying to get the parents to learn meditation. So I started with a kids show that I put up on YouTube, and then over time, I life events happened, and I started thinking about communicating with adults. And so I decided to make a podcast about meditation. So it's been about 6 months that I've been doing the Meditation Daily podcast, and I'm just talking with all kinds of different therapists and coaches and people from all different backgrounds about how they find peace and happiness basically in their day-to-day life. And it's just been a wonderful experience.
Right. How we talk about, a little bit of like segue into our conversation. And I know meditation is your thing and stuff like that. But can you share, like, what was your experience with dealing with meditation during the pandemic? Or did you shift because of the pandemic? What caused that to be your new passion, may I ask?
Yeah. So I discovered meditation probably 2 years before the pandemic, something like this. And I had gotten quite serious about it. Like, I was meditating quite a lot every day. And it had such a profound impact on me. And I realized that after volunteering at this meditation boot camp, basically at like one of these meditation retreats, I discovered that it was possible to meditate a lot, like a few hours every day, while also functioning and like helping out, making food in the kitchen, doing my daily work. So once I realized that the two were possible and how much benefit I got from it, I started meditating every day and going to my job and, having my normal life, but also doing quite a lot of meditation. And then when the pandemic hit, it was kind of in a strange way, a perfect opportunity for me to kind of double down on my meditation. So I had less, it wasn't possible to go out. So I was just spending a lot more time meditating and learning about meditation through reading books and through watching things online, but especially through my own practice. So that the pandemic was, for me, I was really lucky in that it was actually an opportunity for me to learn more about meditation. And of course, it was like tremendously valuable for me during that experience, because I feel like I didn't feel a lot of the pressure and stress that a lot of other people felt because I had this daily practice.
Right. I can relate to that because, like, so for those who know, I walk, and forms of meditation come in so many different techniques. So can you share a little bit about, like, do you still find that, I guess let's start with the basics. For those who don't know about meditation, what are some of the basics that you would explain to people who are looking to start meditation first? So, it could, talking about walking. Walking is for me a form of meditation, but can you explain what are forms of meditation and what does it look like?
Yeah, that's a great thing to do. So there's so many different types of meditation, and I think for a lot of people who haven't learned about it yet, it can be kind of overwhelming or a little bit strange because there's a lot of spirituality associated with meditation, but it doesn't have to be a spiritual thing. It's really just about calming the mind, finding ways of calming the mind. So you could be doing a walking meditation, or you could be doing one of those guided meditations where you're listening to music and somebody's kind of walking you through a journey, like a story that you're kind of imagining, and that's a way of calming the mind. So some people would say playing music is a way of meditation. So it's all just different ways of calming the mind. But in the most traditional sense, meditation is like sitting down, generally cross-legged with your eyes closed and just paying attention to the feeling of the breath. This is kind of the most basic form of meditation. And what this will do is calm the mind because you're brought into the present moment. And there's a really strong link between the breath and the thoughts that we don't normally perceive. So the more that you sit and notice the breath, the more that you begin to notice the connection between your thoughts and your breath. So for example, if you're very anxious in some situation in your life, you'll notice your mind is racing, but your breath might also be going very fast. So if you're able to, oh, I notice my breath is going fast, then it will help to calm down the mind at the same time. So the two are quite linked. And the more that you sit down and just pay attention to the breath, the more that you'll understand how your mind works, basically.
Right. I like that because I hear like there's a couple of different misconceptions of meditation, and I know there's a number of them, but can you address maybe some of the the misconceptions of meditation that people was like, oh, I just can't do it. So can you explain
Sure.
to that?
Yeah. So one of the big misconceptions is that like you're supposed to, there's this kind of idea that you sit down and you close your eyes and all of a sudden you're in this state of peace and calm. And when people try this and then they try this and they realize, wait a second, my mind's going crazy. I'm agitated. I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to be here. I'm bored. Like there's all these things that happen. And so people might think, oh, I'm not good at it. It's just not for me. Or I don't have the attention span. I can't concentrate. But what people need to understand is that this is a skill just like any other, and it takes a lot of practice and a lot of work. And it's actually one of the hardest things you can ever do, control your mind. Like what harder thing is there in life to do than learn how to control your mind? So it's really a lot of work. And you should look at it kind of like exercise. Like you're not just going to show up to the gym with big muscles from day one. Like you have to do the reps and slowly build muscle. And it's the same with learning to control your mind. It's like you sit there, and every time that the mind wanders, you bring it back to the breath. And then the mind wanders again, and you bring it back to the breath. And if you just do this over and over again, and you try not to get frustrated, you will get better at it over time. So that's one of the first things I'd say is just that um, it is for everybody. It's just it is a lot of work, so we have to accept that.
Right. I like how you say that it's for everybody. And when I think about, I'll share a little bit of my experience, and then you can tell me, like, maybe, maybe some best recommendation practices. Do you feel when I sat down, my mind was wandering, and I was feeling like I had to control my thoughts? Do you actually have to control your thoughts, or are you just aware of your thoughts? And how do you said bring it back to center. So is there
Yeah,
something that you say, how do, I mean, I said I'm
that's
not going to go too much into it because there's way more than, just talking about, but just bringing some general concepts into place. Can you help us
yeah,
with that?
yeah, that's such a great I'm so glad you brought that up because I think that's a really common way of thinking about it is that you're supposed to try to control your thoughts. And I think that that's a big problem because when you try to control your thoughts, you get frustrated. It brings up a lot of frustration, and it's almost like you're trying to force it. And there's this weird paradox with meditation where you're trying to be very concentrated but also very relaxed at the same time. So there's not supposed to be any tension, but at the same time you have to be very alert, like you're trying to watch I don't know, the sentinel is the classic example, or like, an animal in the forest that you don't want to scare away. Like, you have to be very alert to noticing your breath, but you're not supposed to be trying to force it. And when it comes to thinking, you're not trying to control your thoughts, at least with the meditation that I do, with this very basic awareness of the breath. The thoughts will come and go, but the job of the meditator is to just notice the breath. So it actually has really nothing to do with the thoughts. The thoughts are almost like, if somebody's knocking on your door, or there's some other sound, your cat's meowing at you. In my case, like, there might be different things that are happening in your environment, and the thoughts are just kind of something else that's happening in your environment. So your job isn't to control your thoughts. Your job is to bring your attention back to the breath. And that's really all it's about. And the more you do this, the better you'll be able to. It's not like you'll be able to control your thoughts, but you'll be able to control your awareness, which is really what it's all about.
Right. Great point. And like I said, it's just like being aware of it. And like I said, if you're paying attention to your breath, you can pick up when your breath is racing.
Yeah.
And like you like slow it down, take a deep breath. Just like you're talking to yourself a little bit,
Yeah.
to a certain, like, talk yourself through this process, right?
100%.
I like it. So again, I want to remind everybody who's been tuning in that if you've been picking up what William has been dropping, please give a like, let us know, maybe follow down with a comment below, because we're going to start diving into this whole podcast thing, because I know my meditation is really important, but podcasting seems to be a hotness, and you put them both together. So let's talk about how that journey works together. And you shared your journey about how you started with the meditation. And you start with children. So how is this process like forming itself? Is it like this whole podcast taken off into a whole different type form? Because I do believe if you're practicing meditation, you're sort of taking it with your podcast, right? So it's like follow the breath of your business. Is this? That's the concept that I'm picking up. How about you, there, sir?
I'm following. Yeah. So it's interesting. You never know where life will take you. And I think that for me, really, I made a really strong decision to make meditation the center of my life. I knew that if meditation was the center of my life, and if I really prioritized that, then everything else would just kind of fall into place. Because once a person learns how to calm their mind and relax their mind and get more clear at their thinking, then all the other decisions in life will be more clear. They'll be better. They'll be, you'll live with better morality and all these other things that will help to bring your life in a positive direction. So for me, it was like I anchored my life in meditation. And then from there, I wanted to teach meditation, partly because I wanted to help other people learn about it because it was so helpful, but also because I knew that by doing that, it would help anchor my own practice. Because, it would just, if I can't teach about it unless I'm actually practicing it quite regularly. So that was part of it too. So that kind of led to the kids show, and then eventually the podcast. So now I'm like deep in this world where I'm trying to teach meditation. So I need to practice it myself. And then through building a podcast, I kind of stumbled upon this business idea that I hadn't really considered prior to that, which was helping other people build podcasts and producing podcasts for other people, because it was quite a difficult process to start a podcast from scratch without having any background in it. And it's kind of a new frontier. So so you just kind of never know where life will take you.
Right. That's why I feel like once, like I said, I think ours, even now, if you come in with meditation in different forms, like I said, you do the breath, you're always sitting down, and I do the walking, but it still ended up taking us on our journey, like you said, with the clarity and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So when people are looking at, like, trying to figure out, like, what is their purpose or their passion or where they need to be going, what would your recommendation be for somebody applying maybe the meditation to this work? No, they're like, I can't gain clarity. What would you say would be a
Great
great way to get
question.
clarity on that?
So for purpose and passion, I'd say that curiosity is really important. Being willing to be curious about things and not feeling like you have to follow a specific path. For me, I was an artist. I was making electronic music before, and I spent many years doing this, and that skill ended up being the production skills that I learned there were what allowed me to do this podcast, really well and efficiently. So you you just have to be curious, because you never know that the small skills that you pick up that you think, oh, these aren't really going to serve me, or they're not useful or whatever. But once you start building these small little skills, they'll all kind of combine into a bigger picture that will help you do something unique, because everybody's a unique person. So the more different types of skills you can build, the more that you'll find out what your very specific niche is. And I think that that's the key, especially with the internet, is that every individual person can really be their own unique business and niche. And so rather than looking to what is existing already, you can use that for inspiration, but the best thing is to just try to follow your curiosity and just start developing little skills step by step, not feeling like you have to, climb the mountain all in one day, but just like every day doing a little thing that you're curious about that will help you improve. And often that means that you need to stop consuming so much content, like stop watching Netflix and playing video games all day, and just spend a little bit of that time researching new things and exploring your curiosity. And you'll be much happier as a result of being proactive with what you're doing, I think.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's like you said in the beginning, the meditation helps you gain clarity, and then you can actually determine what's right for you and what to let go. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, well, with meditation, it definitely adds clarity. And um my cat has decided to join us.
That's fine.
So meditation definitely adds clarity. So what I would suggest is take little opportunities, and if you want to get started on this path, probably the easiest way to do it is when you're in line at the grocery store or you're in line at the bank. Whenever you have this period where you're stuck there for a few minutes and you're bored, just start to notice the breath moving through your nose. And if you close your mouth, just gently closing your mouth, that will allow you to feel the air passing through your nostrils. And that's really what it's about. It's not about taking big breaths. It's just about noticing the air that's naturally passing through your nostrils. And it sounds simple and kind of crazy, but once you do it, you realize how helpful it is. And this will start to help you calm your mind on a more regular basis and will bring added clarity. And then if you do decide to develop like a sitting practice, where even if you're sitting for 5 minutes every morning or before you go to bed, that will also help you gain clarity. And really the more, if your mind is always racing and you're thinking about what happened at work, at your day job, or what's going on in your life, you're not going to have the willpower and the passion to explore your curiosity and to believe in yourself, I think, because your mind will just be too preoccupied. So it is important to find ways of keeping your mind calm. And again, as you said, Tanya, that could be many different types, like going for a walk or doing whatever swimming, whatever meditation feels good for you.
Right. Well, thank you, Mr. William. You had you dropped a lot of great nuggets, and I got basically 2 questions for you left before we wrap it up. Really, what's the one thing you want the audience to take away from this interview today if they hear nothing else that you share? What's the one thing you want them to take away from today?
The one thing I would hope that this audience would take away is that if you desire to have less anxiety in your life and have a more clear way of thinking, starting to understand the relationship between the breath and the mind is the fastest and most efficient way to do this. And it's not a religious thing. It's just biology and the way that we're made. So taking those opportunities when you're at the grocery store to notice your breath, really, that's the best starting place, I think, for anybody.
Right. Again, Mr. William, it's been a pleasure. And where can people find more information about you, the Meditation Daily podcast, and everything else where they could connect with you? How can we find you there, sir?
Great question. So if people are looking to listen to the podcast, that would be wonderful. It's all over. It's on Spotify and Apple Music and everywhere, but it's also on YouTube, which is the primary place. So you can just search for Meditation Daily Podcast and you should find it. Yeah, and then the kids show is called Worldlings Kids Meditation, and that's also connected with the podcast. So you should be able to find it. YouTube is the best place.
Okay, well, thank you, sir. I love that. This is my unofficial question. I don't know why. Would you be willing to maybe have a chance to come back and go maybe in a deeper conversation?
Yeah, of course. I love talking with you. I'd be happy to come back.
Well, thank you. And I want to thank everybody who tuned in. That remember, feedback is always welcome. Remember, the links that William mentioned will be posted down in the description box below. So please make sure you check out those juicy gems down there. If you've enjoyed today's insight, especially what Mr. William dropped today, and you want to continue getting more of the great insight, please remember to hit that like button and that subscribe button over there, right there. And remember, take things in stride, go with the flow, and create your own path. And we will see you back here on another episode of Coffee with Tea. All right, bye-bye.